It was Valentine's Day back in 2000. A 9-year-old girl named Asha Degree packed up her book bag, walked right out of her family's house in Shelby, North Carolina, and just vanished into a dark and stormy night. Now, for more than 2 decades, her disappearance has been one of the most baffling and just truly heartbreaking mysteries in the entire country. And really, to even begin to get a handle on this case, you have to start right here, with these words from Asha's mother, Aquila. This one quote, it just perfectly captures the unending limbo her family has been trapped in. It's a kind of pain that has no closure, a wound that just can't ever seem to heal. So, let's go all the way back to the beginning. We're in Shelby, North Carolina. It's a pretty quiet rural town where one family's entire world was about to be completely shattered on, of all days, Valentine's Day. Just try to imagine this for a second. It's 6:30 in the morning. Aquila Degree goes into her kids' room to wake them up for school. Her son, O'Brien, is there, but Asha's bed is empty. The family searches the house, but there are no signs of a break-in, none at all. The doors are still locked. There's just no explanation. She was simply gone. Okay, so let's walk through the timeline of the last few hours, because this is where everything starts to feel so wrong. The evening before was totally normal. Asha had a great weekend with her cousins. Later, a storm wakes her up, but she just watches some TV and goes back to bed. Her dad, Harold, even checks on her after midnight, and she's sound asleep. But then, somewhere in those dark, early morning hours, the story takes this incredibly jarring turn, from a safe, sleeping child in her bed to a little girl walking all alone on a highway. And to really understand just how bizarre this whole thing is, you have to know who Asha was. Her community literally called her Shelby's sweetheart. This was not some rebellious kid. She was shy, a great student, and she was known for being super cautious. Her family said she was so careful she wouldn't even open the front door for her own aunt unless her mom said it was okay. That personality, it's the absolute key to this whole mystery. And that brings us to the first huge confusing piece of this puzzle, the witness sightings. Because the last time anyone can say for sure they saw Asha Degree, she was doing something that was completely and totally out of character. This, right here, is the question that has haunted her family and investigators for more than 20 years. A girl who was scared of dogs, who always followed the rules, who was incredibly close with her family, why on earth would she pack her bag and walk out into the cold, pouring rain in the middle of the night? It just makes absolutely no sense. Now, the crucial thing to remember here is that these weren't just vague rumors. No, these were confirmed sightings from 2 separate truck drivers. They both saw a little kid walking along Highway 18. One of the drivers was so concerned, he actually circled his rig around 3 times to try and check on her. But on his last pass, he saw her suddenly run off the road and just disappear into the woods. That was it. The last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree. So you see the problem here. This is the core enigma of the entire case. On one hand, you have this shy, quiet, rule-following kid. And on the other, you have the actions of someone who seems completely fearless, walking for over a mile alone in a storm at 4 a.m. These 2 portraits are in total opposition to each other, and trying to bridge that gap is what investigators have been struggling with for decades. Immediately, the search for Asha was just massive. We're talking hundreds of volunteers out there combing the area. And while they didn't find Asha herself, they did find the first of several strange, confusing clues she seemed to have left behind. Not too far from where she ran into the woods, searchers found this shed. Inside, they found candy wrappers, a pencil, and a hair bow, and her family identified all of it as Asha's. So that confirmed, okay, she was definitely here. But then they found something that wasn't hers, a small, wallet-sized photo of another little girl, a girl that her family, her teachers, nobody had ever seen before. Who was she? After finding those items in the shed, the trail went completely cold. For 18 agonizing months, there was nothing. No new leads, no new sightings, just silence. It was an awful time for her family and investigators. And then, a construction worker digging in the dirt made a discovery that changed everything. A year and a half later, this is the breakthrough. Her book bag. It was found buried about 26 miles north of where she was last seen. And here's the really weird part. It was double wrapped in black plastic trash bags. Now, a 9-year-old kid is not going to do that. And inside, more strange stuff that didn't belong to her. A New Kids on the Block t-shirt and a Dr. Seuss book from her school's library. This discovery was huge because it strongly suggested someone else had to be involved. So, with the discovery of that backpack, the whole investigation really pivots. The theory that she just wandered off on her own and got lost in the elements, that started to seem way less likely. The focus turned to foul play, and that led investigators down a whole lot of different paths. And many of them, unfortunately, turned out to be really frustrating dead ends. One of the biggest dead ends came from a jailhouse tip. An inmate came forward with this very detailed story, claiming he was there when Asha was accidentally hit by a truck and that her body was dumped in a nearby lake. I mean, it's a horrific claim, but the police had to take it seriously. They launched these huge searches of Moss Lake with dive teams and cameras, and the result? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was just another painful dead end. So, after chasing down false leads like that jailhouse tip, investigators kept coming back to one theory that just felt more promising. It's a theory that connects right back to that lonely stretch of highway where Asha was last seen. The idea that she didn't just walk away, but that maybe she was met by someone or taken by someone in a car. And this, right here, is the most significant development in this case in years. The FBI got a tip that Asha might have been seen getting into an old, dark green car, maybe a Lincoln or a Thunderbird from the 70s. Well, that lead recently resulted in a search in 2024 of a property that belonged to a couple named Roy and Connie Dedmon. And get this, police seized a damaged car that fits the general description. But here's the real bombshell. Investigators have now said that DNA found on Asha's backpack has been linked to people connected to that same family. This is a monumental shift, connecting a piece of physical evidence directly to persons of interest for the first time. Now, even with these incredible recent developments, this case is still very much open and active. The search for Asha and for answers, it has never really stopped. It's just evolved over time, using brand new technologies and new strategies to look at old evidence all over again. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, it's immense. Since 2015 alone, investigators have followed up on over 500 new tips. They've done more than 300 interviews. This is not a case that's just sitting on a shelf collecting dust. This is a constant, dedicated effort by local, state, and federal law enforcement. Yeah, it's really important to get this straight because officials are very clear about it. This is not a cold case. The FBI even brought in their elite child abduction rapid deployment team to basically take the entire case file apart and put it back together again. And with every single advance in forensic tech, every little piece of evidence is being looked at again with fresh eyes. And to try and encourage anyone out there with information to finally come forward, there's a pretty substantial reward on the table. The community and the FBI have put together a $45,000 reward for information that finally helps solve this case. They are convinced someone out there knows what happened. You know, the FBI has this core belief now, and it makes a lot of sense. Over 2 decades, things change. Friendships end, loyalties shift, and people who might have been scared to speak up way back then may not feel so silent anymore. They're making a direct appeal to that one person, the one who's holding that last missing piece of the puzzle to finally break that silence. But in the end, it all comes back to her family. Asha Degree's words, they remind us that behind all the evidence and the theories and the investigations, there's a mother who has missed everything. Birthdays, holidays, graduations, an entire life. And all she wants is to see her daughter again. And so we're left with this question. With new leads finally emerging, with technology advancing, there is honestly more hope right now than there has been in years. But the mystery, it remains. What really happened on that stormy Valentine's night, and what final piece of information will it take to finally bring Asha Degree home?